Welcome to this live stream. Today we're talking about very exciting subject, timelines, particularly this timeline war. We've been on these timeline wars for so long, basically between complete human sovereignty and the system that desires to control and usurp life force energy from this planet. We were very, very excited through the elections. By we, I mean a lot of the Lightworkers, because it seemed like Trump really stood for a lot of these things that we believe in, like freedom and freedom of speech and prosperity and, evolution, progress of human civilization, all these things. And I remember putting out a energy report around the time of the elections, I think maybe right after he won. And I talked about how when I tuned in, I definitely feel like this was the higher timeline. I'm going to talk about why I feel that is. And this video is really for what I would call people that resonate with being an angelic starseed. For other people, this video might not make sense to you, and that's okay. Okay, and in our human consciousness and our human experience, sometimes if things don't make sense to us, we want to just fight it or be in conflict with it, but there's no need, because this message is not for everyone at this time on Earth. I think at some point this video will become more and more available for everyone to access exactly what I'm talking about. But this video and my work at this time on Earth, it really is not for everyone. It is for people that know inside of their heart, through their own personal experiences with God, with the reality, through their synchronicities, through life, that they are actually an angelic, a starseed. Another word for this is part of the 144,000, or the beings who are here to be messengers and way showers, who are sent here from the heart of God to participate in this mission of heaven on earth. That is who this video is for. If I just said all that and you're like, what the heck, you're crazy, just turn it off. This video is just not for you. There's no point in getting mad about it. But anyway, maybe if you feel called, you can still watch this video and it will inspire you. But for others, it might trigger, different things. And so I guess these videos have to come with alignment messages now, because I really want to let you know that what I'm about to share is actually very, very sacred. And this is why I have to start the video off like this, because not everybody can hold that same kind of reverence for the actual depth of what I'm about to share, because we're talking about prophecy. We're talking about God's plan, God's mission, God's dream for the earth, for humanity, and our participation in that. I believe that there's not much more sacred things that we could. And so, yeah, this is what my work is all about right now, is supporting specifically the Christed starseeds, the angelic starseeds, to fully remembering our mission and understanding all the gifts that God placed inside of us, the abilities, the genetic codes that God placed inside of us to ensure that we can do the job that we've come here to do. Right? And so I hope that this video bridges us all into God's highest timeline, and we learn to just really ninja dodge around all of the hooks and arrows and things that try to entangle us into the false matrix and the false timelines, and specifically being, complacent. This is really the biggest virus that we're going to be breaking through today. It's complacency. It's being scatterbrained. It's not believing in our mission, not knowing what we're doing here, still externalizing what we believe to be the reality from external things, external events, right? People that are running the countries and whatnot. We're like dictating our reality based on what we're seeing on the external, when really the reality is being created through our internal guidance system, and we are expanding in that space. And really my prayer for today's video is that I really help us align with that frequency of God's highest timeline, which is already available inside of you. And so, yeah, if you're an angelic starseed like me, we are here to heal and restore our human bodies back to its highest original blueprint. That means we are capable of miracles Like the various guides and masters that have walked before us, right? We are capable of accreting true eternal love and peace. We're able to connect to the most truest frequency of God and become a vessel for that. And I really believe that we've been inside of this time capsule where that's not been fully available. It means that we've been waiting for the right time, waiting for the cosmic clock to be aligned so that we can actually step onto this higher octave of our mission, be fully engaged, right? Experience the fullness of those source frequencies embedded and alive inside of our body so we can express those higher psychic abilities, right? And so we've been waiting, and I really do feel that this year, and last year, there's been a lot of these deep activations inside of the earth, original architectures activating inside of the earth that happens through alignment into cosmic bodies, meaning that cosmic clock has come into alignment and it's given the star seeds this exit point through the previous consciousness frequency fences that we were under. Meaning, previously, maybe we were able to connect with like the Pleiadians and the galactic energies, and we were feeling happy about being a starseed and all of this. But there was this firmament where our starseed mission hasn't come home fully or connected back into the source of that mission, which is God, which connects into the biblical unfoldings on this earth. It clicks into the actual human reality on this earth, right? So far, the starseeds were kind of in this bubble, and we were in this bubble cultivating ourselves, forming ourselves, believing in ourselves, cultivating our skills. And I really feel that over the last year, that bubble is slowly starting to dissipate because we are landing and reconnecting with the actual earth reality, realizing that we are here to impact humans, billions and billions of humans. We're here to change the earth reality and not be insular in our little bubbles forever. And we're also reconnecting with the true source of this mission, which is not the Pleiadians, is not the Syrians, even though a lot of these beings are supporting, but it is the eternal living source that has embedded prophecies of the earth inside the earth for a really long time, and that of course are written in a lot of prophetic books like the Bible, talking about heaven on earth. So many of these things that are embedded in our soul that we are remembering are not insular. They don't just exist inside of our body, but they are spoken of in prophecies all over the world, and it speaks about this new reality in which the world becomes a heaven on earth reality. Okay, and the way for that to happen is that the angelic starseeds, the Christos starseeds, we are here to primarily restore the genetic blueprint of our body so that we can show humanity what being human really is. And so I'm setting up this as the preface to the rest of my talk, which is going to involve talking about the different timelines that are unfolding on the earth. And it's important for us to talk about this because a lot of times people say, oh, that's all stuff happening in 3D. It doesn't even matter. We don't have to look at it. But the thing is that we exist in the third dimension. And when we're trying to build a bridge into a higher timeline, if we only build half of the bridge from where we're going, the future that we want to go, and the bridge is not built into the reality as it is, then we can't migrate the reality. The bridge is, not functional. And so this is why we have to be actually super aware of what is happening in the third dimension, not in the way of like needing to keep track of like everything that happens, but just having some awareness of the state of the collective consciousness, where human beings are, so that when we're navigating it, we can actually build the bridge, meeting the humans where they are, right? Instead of expecting them to jump half of the bridge onto our bridge, which of course is not really our mission, not what we're here to do. Okay, so this is the frequency that we're working on. Really remembering that we in our bodies are here to embody a frequency, a signal, a state of being that is an organic state of unity consciousness, true Christ consciousness, which only streams from the eternal realms of the God world. And on Saturday, I feel, because I wanted to share this publicly on my YouTube channel so that this training is available for everyone, because I think it's the most important message for this year, which is transcending the frequency fences and really getting clear about who God is, where is our source, how to place all of these parts of ourselves in the right place, in right relationship. So on Saturday, we're doing this workshop called Frequency Fences and Soul Traps, where we're going to be talking about the 15D universal time matrix and the 5 densities, and how these 5 densities all carry their own distortions and frequency fences, so that when we ascend our consciousness, right, first we're in the 3D, and we think no such thing as a soul. Then we transcend that layer of the frequency fence and we get into people getting healing and shamanic practices and plant medicines. And we think that because we've exited a 3rd dimension and ascended into this higher frequency, that we've made it back home. And there's 3 more layers of these dimensional frequency fences, all the way up to these false religions, distortions in our understanding of God, that continue to block us from truly connecting and coming into union with the eternal God world, and reconnecting with this true living eternal source frequency, and allowing it to actually reorganize our DNA and our cells to the point where this frequency can actually live inside of our body. This is the only job that the angelic starseeds really have. Like, nothing can happen until we step into that, because that is when we will step into the timeline of these higher frequencies. And I'm going to talk about why that is. Okay. And so if you resonate with this frequency, so much of this work that we do is so multifaceted, right? We're talking about navigating this reality through the embodied mastery of our psychic abilities, while still staying fully grounded in the reality as it is, without spiritually bypassing it. And so, yeah, I'm going to start with why I believe this is the higher timeline with Trump. So, I think I first started really tracking this when he was still president, the first term. And I had this dream one night where I was on this little boat with him, and I was like his security guy. And I don't know, I'm the, probably nobody would want me to be their security in the physical reality, but I guess in the other realities, I could be a pretty good bodyguard, the spiritual realms. But anyway, and up to that point, I didn't know anything about him. I've heard about lots of awful things about him, but I never really believe anything the TV says, since I was a kid. So I never really had any solid idea of what or who he is. I didn't really care, because I was on my spiritual journey. I was working on communicating with beings and seeing visions and whatever. So I didn't really care much about him. But that dream, because I have a lot of these dreams, the guardians and the earth and God really communicate to me through dreams. That was the first time that I really started paying attention. And then flash forward to last summer, I think the day when there was that assassination attempt, I was led to this video by this pastor named Brandon Biggs, who has a YouTube channel called The Last Days, and he was being interviewed on some other really big Christian YouTube channel. They were talking about the eclipses, I think in April, and he was sharing this prophetic vision that he had. So this is a Christian pastor. God shows him visions about different things, and in this vision, he specifically details the fact that there was an assassination attempt, and the bullet literally goes by his right ear, that he falls to the ground and blood is gushing everywhere, and he lives, and he has this moment where he basically has like a direct communion moment with God. Okay, that was the prophecy that he spoke in April. So 3 or 4 months, or March, 3 or 4 months before it actually happened. Now, there was a second part to that prophecy. What he saw after that was Trump would win the election, but they're going to do everything they can to try to destroy it in the way of creating chaos. And so one of the things he saw was that maybe there was going to be this complete economic collapse, worse than the ones in 2008 and all of these things. Now, the way that he shares these prophecies, I really, really appreciate, because he doesn't say like, this is what God showed me is going to happen, which is like fear mongering, right? He says that our role as the Christ warriors is to actually pray, and to, God shows us these things so that we can actually pray for them not to happen. Now, this is very interesting because there's Christian ways of describing things and understanding things, and then there's these very metaphysically scientific ways of understanding things and seeing things. So what is prayer and how does it work? How come that there needs to be all of these masses of people to pray? Like, if God was all powerful, why can't God just make it not happen? And I really believe that we are God's plan. We are part of God's expression. We're part of God's architecture here on this earth. And I'm going to talk about this advanced level of prayer and how the Christos Starseeds have this amplified ability to change the reality. But even in these traditional Christian communities, it's a very well-known idea that when groups of people united by God come together, we can actually change the timeline. And this is often why God shows the prophets, shows the visionaries these futures, so that they can actually come together and pray about it and bypass those realities, change the outcome. Okay, so flash forward to inauguration night. No, the night before inauguration, when Trump was doing his victory rally, he did this hour-long speech. And for those of you that can't watch his speeches because you hate him so much, I would just scan your body for implants, bifurcation implants, anxiety implants, conflict implants, right? Because when we are in our true angelic state, we should be able to sustain that Christ love no matter who is in front of us, no matter what we're looking at. And if we can't even stand Trump, then how are we going to deal with the other things that are in this world that are far more heinous and atrocious and ridiculously dark? So, that's just a little practice I recommend, is becoming sovereign, because we don't really want to be manipulated by things. We don't want to be manipulated into certain emotions or projections by external forces, which of course they're implanting people with all sorts of stuff through the TV and whatnot. So, okay, victory rally. This hour-long speech is, when I listen to Trump speak, he's clearly a very coherent man, very powerful, influential leader. Of course, he's a very successful salesperson, so he is very charismatic. He is, at this time, absolutely fearless. And I really do believe that we have to stop looking at things black and white, okay? It's not that he's either absolutely just evil, the Antichrist, or he's completely, a Christed savior character. That's not how it works. So when I look at Trump, what I see is that he really believes that God saved him, which I really believe that as well. He released his own edition of the Bible, not that he edited it, but just in the front, there was an engraving that has the date of his assassination attempt that says the day that God intervened, which I thought it was just kind of awesome. Honestly, it's hilarious and awesome. You got to just like look at things and just find joy in it sometimes. I think that's pretty awesome. He made a video about how one of his goals is to make America pray again. I thought that was very good and awesome as well. So some of you guys that are in crypto, that, like, I think a few days before inauguration, he actually launched his own meme coin, which is kind of unprecedented, right? Like, normally you don't see presidents doing this kind of thing, posting on their social media and being themselves, being a little bit outrageous, doing things that are out of the ordinary. And I'm looking at things through the perspective of these things being aurora timeline anomalies. Um, Timeline anomalies are situations that happen in the timeline that just seem outrageous, that seem like, what reality am I in that's happening in real life, right? It's so important to be able to perceive the timeline and not get hooked into it, but be able to stand far away from it to be able to see the bigger picture. And that's what we're trying to do today. So coming back to the victory rally, he was talking about crypto and how he really supports crypto and all these things. Now, there's two ways to perceive this, right? Some people, if your mind is oriented towards the negative timelines, meaning you're a little bit pessimistic, you're a little bit fearful of what's going to happen, you might think, okay, this is all about the digital control system and this is awful and, he's blah, blah, blah. But there's also this other perspective that I have met, like at this point, tens and tens of people who are on this path of building Aurora hubs, healing centers, animal rescue centers, and God has guided them to position themselves very, very well in the crypto world that they're going to actually be able to multiply their money to be able to do what they want to do. And so this is this idea that everything in this world can be used by God for good if we are aligned and harmonized, and if our brain doesn't get the best of us, if the fears and the anxieties and the ideas that we have embedded in our brain doesn't lock us into a certain reality that we're unable to see the bigger picture beyond that. If we're not able to ultimately always come back to this fact that God is in control, right? And this has to do with healing our own God wound, coming back home with God, so that in any moment we're actually going to God and asking for clarity, asking for revelation, instead of allowing our mind to run with these stories. Okay, now what I saw during the victory rally when he was talking about crypto, I had crazy, crazy chills, because I'm referring back to that vision that Brandon saw about the economic collapse. I saw that Trump actually is like, when you try to change the timeline, you want to do something completely unexpected, because there are certain beings that just don't have that creativity. They don't expect it coming, right? So when you make this move, this dance move in the reality that's just like so unexpected, it throws the whole reality off. And so I saw that he was using his meme coin and crypto and these different things that he's doing with crypto to actually help America not go through this timeline of severe economic collapse. And I think that this is important, because a lot of us, we didn't grow up through the Great Depression, right? We didn't grow up through, like, in countries. I mean, I grew up in a communist country, but a lot of Canadians, Americans, Europeans, like, we grew up in a very prosperous reality. So we don't realize how bad the world can be, when when communism has taken over and millions of people die of famine. Like, those things are pretty serious. Like, we don't want that kind of thing happening in our timeline right now, right? That's also what these negative timeline beings are wanting to do. So I saw very clearly that Trump bypassed that, was guided by God to make this kind of move, to make this kind of maneuver, to bypass that reality. So this is kind of a chess move, right? Like, okay, now that being said, I really feel like he is maybe a little bit naive. I feel like even though he's connected to God, when we talk about these frequency fences, okay, the Christian God is perhaps like the furthest out. It's like a false God firmament, right? So you're still getting that 12D Christ energy, which is why people subscribe to it, which is why people get trapped there, which is why people feel that they have gone completely home. This is also why a lot of New Agers jump from the New Age to Christianity, because they go from the third frequency band to the fourth frequency band. That's still a frequency fence. So this is what we're going to be going into in our workshop on Saturday, okay? But that being said, I feel like because he is still inside of that glass ceiling, the false Christ God architecture, there's just things that he doesn't understand. So this is obviously a weakness that the negative faction can manipulate, right? And I really feel that this is a potential, but we don't have to be afraid. I think the fact is that we see it, and that when we see it, we can actually pray for the timeline to shift. Okay. So now I want to share actually the higher timeline possibilities that I've been shown with Trump and Elon. But the only way that we can align to these timelines is through activating our superpowers. This is why I stay at my house. I don't really go out. I don't really have any friends, because I just meditate and I'm trying to do my job. I'm trying to bring through these activations and trainings and this knowledge so that we can step into that timeline where you are no longer a spectator, where you're not waiting for something to happen, but you realize that you are an avatar and you are actually here to do avatar stuff, like, really training, going monk mode, so that you can fully heal all layers of your body and engage these higher aspects of your body. In Revelations, it talks about people performing miracle healings, which, I've already heard so many stories from you guys, from this community, people that are experiencing that kind of thing. Even in the womb temple, we've experienced miracles, but this is like, so low level compared to where we're going. And I really do believe that ultimately this is the realm of the true Christed starseeds, because these are the people that have this inner understanding of what I'm talking about and feel actually called to exert effort towards embodying it. So that this is my proof that the starseeds are actually the 144,000. This is my theory, definitely what I've been experiencing in my life. And so my work at this time is really helping starseeds transcend all of these frequency fences, these glass ceilings, so we can come all the way back to the place where our mission comes from, which is the eternal God world. And then we can feed back that into our body and begin to actually awaken these avatar genetic sequences that allow us to step onto that timeline. So if you resonate with this, please check out the link in the description. We are doing a massive 4-day training towards the end of February during the Cygnus Gateway. This is really big mission work. We're essentially going to learn about these multidimensional frequency fences, because one of the biggest ones is, you've heard about this reincarnation trap. And it has to do with humans being out of phase with organic time and space. And we are actually here to realign those passages. And so we're going to be training and activating our Christos avatar DNA. We're going to be working on these interdimensional fields. We're going to be transcending and uniting with the eternal God frequency, and really just experiencing that, being where did I want to say is inaugurated, right? Like really initiating that frequency into our body. And a lot of this is like we face our fears, because the last times that we really stepped forward to do this, like people were getting stoned to death at a certain point for remembering the true Christ teachings and speaking these things to the world, which is why, this plan requires hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of us this time, because it's really undeniable at that point. So if this all resonates with you, I'm really working on gathering us. All of the money that comes together goes towards the building of this avatar meditation retreat that I'm building, which will eventually offer month-long to 6-month-long meditation. This is what I'm about, it's just time for us to do the avatar stuff if we're really here to do that. Like, we're not going to do it through talking about it. We just have to go direct with God and activate these dormant sequences and start doing crazy stuff. So that's I believe in that. This is what I've been guided to do. So if you want to participate in that, check out this upcoming training and Gridwork mission. So let me go back to these higher timeline potentialities with Trump and Elon. So I'm going to just primarily actually talk about Elon because he is the one that I've had the most visionary experiences with. So there was this one time when I had a prophetic dream, and I knew it was a prophetic dream because it came with a marker. So the first part of this dream, my mother-in-law was coming to my house with this gray rocking chair, like a nursing chair. And it had this like swivel armrest. It was very specific. It was gray and it was this nursery chair. And then I had the second part of the dream. Now, when I woke up, my mother-in-law was texting me and she's like, hey, I found this perfect nursing chair for your house. I got it. I'm coming to your house. So it was like in my dream, I dreamt of something and I woke up and it immediately happened. Okay. So this was a marker. My guides told me that this was trying to show me that this was a prophetic dream. Now, the second part of this dream, I was in this meeting place with just these really wealthy, kind of previously evil people. And somehow they have been contacted or they went through some sort of revelation experience. They were really shaken up and they were asking for my help. And they were basically realizing that they've been duped by interdimensional forces, and they were trying desperately to align back into God's timeline. And so they were looking for these basically, these angelic starseeds. They were looking for the true oracles to help them navigate out of this mess. Okay. And in that dream, I communicated certain things to them, which then kind of dissolved that control system. So then there was a second, again, this was like a prophetic dream because the first part of it immediately came true. And there were some other things that immediately came true around that as well. So then there was a second dream where I was going to meet Elon in Colorado, or around Colorado. And in that dream, I was just hanging out with Elon. He asked me to scan his light body. And so I did. And basically what I saw was just that this is a person who, is mentally constrained, is not connected to the true source, true God. He is, I think previously he was probably atheist. I think that's starting to shift with his relationship with Trump. But when I scanned down into his heart, I really felt like this was not a fully evil person. He might have been programmed. He might be misguided. He might not have a full understanding, but he's not being intentionally malevolent. So there was space there that, that could be worked on. And then we scanned the rest of his body, and he had just so much creative energy. And in that dream, we ended up creating a new company that basically brought free energy to the planet. Okay, so now there's this whole conspiracy theory. There's all these conspiracy theories out there. One of my favorite conspiracy theories right now, let's just put on our tinfoil hats for this one. One of my favorite conspiracy theories right now is that Trump is a time traveler. And there is this reality that his uncle was an MIT researcher who inherited all of Nikola Tesla's research, and there's some conspiracy that Trump actually inherited that. So there's this whole higher timeline possibility, if we can allow our brains to be neuroplastic enough to imagine it, that Trump could have shown that to Elon, and Elon could literally have access to this research. Okay, so that being said, I had then a third prophetic experience with Elon. And this is probably my favorite vision. This vision brought me so much clarity around what was happening. And it has to do with Mother Earth and her perspective on everything. So in this vision, I was brought down into the womb of the earth, and I saw this dark void going into forever, right? It goes into the void, goes into the source, is the womb of our Mother Earth. And then I see this cliff, and there's a dark figure standing on this cliff. And when I zoomed in, it really looked like Ahriman or some sort of like artificial intelligence, demonic being, a demonic AI being. And he looked really sad. He looked really frustrated, almost like this little boy that was put into timeout, you know. And so he was standing there looking all evil and sad and stuff. And here comes Holy Mother, Mother Earth, starting to literally sing the song. And through the song, I was receiving this whole story. She was telling me that her prophecy, this is amazing, her prophecy, I'm getting chills, sorry, her dream, what her destiny that God placed inside of her was that she is this home to not only, you know, the most magnificent Templar knowledge, meaning ascension knowledge, a knowledge of how the eternal manifests into these worlds of Christ, right? Into these worlds of perfect creation. Not only is she a library, that temple, a church, holding these gospels, these teachings, but she is also the home of these ascended civilizations. Her dream is to create an ascended civilization, because when you think about it, right, when we are living in a cave and we have to hunt for our food and we don't know how we're going to survive, we're not able to meditate, you know, that much. We're not thinking about, you know, bilocation and ascending our biology and all of these things because we're just worried about survival. And so when human beings can evolve to a point where so many of those things can be taken care of, humans are going to ascend into a whole other octave of our creative potential, our spiritual potential, what these bodies are meant to embody. I mean, the avatars that have walked this earth before, that's not even just the fullness of what these bodies are capable of. Okay, we have to understand that the best is yet to come. We've not experienced the peak of what human beings are of yet. And sometimes we can look back on these, you know, fallen civilizations. We think, oh, that was the peak of human civilization, but there's a whole other spiral that we are now participating in. And so she's singing and showing me this world where we have technology. Not only is the technology not harmful towards the earth, but it is actually supportive in harmony of the earth. For example, I saw these anti gravitational vehicles that operated on kind of a sound, like a subtonal bass frequency. And not only is that frequency allowing this craft to hover, it is also specifically in a frequency that actually harmonizes and nourishes the Earth's grids at the same time. So when we have the knowledge, when we have the awareness, human beings have the creative capacity to create technology on this higher octave where not only are we not harming the earth, but we're actually supporting her. We're actually loving her. Okay? And this is the earth's dream. And so in order for us to get to that place, the earth very intentionally sent, what I saw was the men. And what it meant by the men was the masculine energy. So it sent the masculine, which is the energy of innovation, discovery, forward movement, right? Exploration, expedition, creating, expanding our creative potential. So she sent the masculine away from her. It's kind of like when you're a teenager or a young person and your mom says, all right, it's time to leave the nest because I want to see what you're capable of. It's time for you to go see what you're capable of without, you know, me being there. And this is like how humans could really explore the edges of our creativity and what we're capable of, right? And so it was perfectly in her intent that human civilization departed from the earth consciousness. And what I want to say is that I think of all beings in the universe, there's no being that is more projected on than Mother Earth. You know, we're like, oh my God, she's so sad and she's so hurt. And, And she's like not at all a victim. Like Earth consciousness does not function the same way human body consciousness functions. And if she did not want us to be on her body, we would not be here. Like she is so ancient. This being is so ancient. She is so absolutely in union with God. She is so Christed. She is so immaculate. So when we actually project these victimhoods and lack of power onto her, we're really actually not holding her in that full awareness, in that full level of reverence that she deserves. And so she's telling me, she's showing me, she's singing to me that this has all been part of her plan, but we're at this point where she needs to call humans back to her, which she is. So we are amongst the first people that have heard her call, right? So many people are now looking into permaculture, organic technologies, all of these things are, we're starting to really hear her song because she's singing this song very loudly, very beautifully all around the world. People are hearing it and coming home. And this includes, when the earth started singing this in her field, in her ley line system, it is a collective consciousness system. So there is no being on this planet that can not hear her, right? But it's an energetic song. So it takes time for the entire reality to assume that cymatic frequency of the song that she's singing. But what I saw was that, she has been working with Elon, and Elon has been chosen by her to represent a piece of this important alchemy. Elon is now representing that masculine energy that went away from Mother to explore the edges of our capacity. And now Mother Earth is calling him back, and he's representing that archetype, that energy. Janae says, I'm confused. Don't we get our creativity from the earth? How can we explore creativity separate from the earth? So we don't technically receive our creativity from the earth so much as our energy, right? So our mind can separate from earth consciousness, meaning our mind can disconnect from like certain understandings. So for example, Elon, when I scanned his sacral chakra, this man's got like free energy in there. He's got so much energy, and his mind is not connected to source, not connected to the earth, but his mind can still create. He still has imagination. So in the way that his body is from the earth, this is what I mean. We can still have creativity on the earth without being mentally, spiritually connected to her. So this is what has happened, if that makes sense. Okay, so then the earth has been calling Elon home, and this has actually been happening for a while. I met this incredibly goddess woman who, met him and his brother at Burning Man, and she offered them incredible ceremonies, and he has forgotten, I guess, what he saw in the ceremonies, because a lot of what he's doing is obviously still not for the earth. But in my vision, I saw him starting to give all of these structures of society back to the earth. So industries, like I saw him put back like bricks and lumber and technology and iPhones, like clothes, t-shirts, fast fashion, like all of these industries that humans have created disconnected from the earth, they were being given back to her so that they could be reborn, right? We're still going to have clothing companies, we're still going to have technology, we're still going to have mattresses, but everything is being reborn. Everything's being given back to the earth so that it can be reborn from this place of being in union with her. And from there, I saw that the forces of nature and of God are literally working with these people and reformatting their consciousness, reforming their soma, their body, so that their body can operate on a different consciousness operating system. Now, this might not immediately be seen, right? But this is what's happening underneath the physical, in the frequency realms. This is what's happening. So don't trust the Black Mirror at face value. And really come home inside of your heart to this place where you're in union with God, and feel how stable the reality is. Feel how stable the ultimate victory of God on this planet and the destiny and the earth arriving in her destiny really is. And then we move into the state of celebration, right? And everything that we see in the third dimension is not going to shake us away from that timeline, but it does give us information on where things currently are so we can pray about them, right? So we can support God's vision and these frequencies to come into fruition. Okay, so now the thing that inspired this video was seeing Trump. He was talking with the CEO of this tech company, Oracle, which is all about surveillance. They believe in surveilling every single person with technology. And he wanted to invest like $500 billion or something in these both AI infrastructure as well as these mRNA cancer treatments. Okay. Really sketchy move there. I have to say that I was taken aback, but it's something that I saw coming, because if you guys remember back in my Trump video, the time that during the election, I talked about how there's a real second layer of the timeline, right? Yes, God is with us. God has chosen this guy to run the country for the time being, but that doesn't mean that there's not other layers of the reality that are also unfolding. So from another layer of perception, there was a real possibility that Trump and these AI billionaires were destroying one control system and to appear like the good guys, to gain trust, and to subtly shepherd humans into this second control system. This isn't the first time in history this has happened, you guys, okay? Since the dawn of human civilization and these control systems have existed, these beings have had to shift their strategy, because as time goes forward and as human beings evolve, human consciousness becomes more and more, evolved. And so, for example, a few hundred years ago, we had absolute monarchies where these kings and queens just could do whatever they wanted. They could kill whoever they wanted. They had all of these rules. And if you were born as a human that was not a king or a queen, you basically were subjugated to the rules and laws that these kings and queens established. That was an absolute control system. And at a certain point, the humans' consciousness evolved beyond that, and they decided that that's no longer going to fly. So they had revolutions, and now we have, democracy. And so we've already went from one control system into another control system. Okay. And, so this has happened through cycles multiple times. It's not new. But currently, essentially, what is entirely possible is these AI. Okay, now I want to explain what Luciferianism is, because it's really a Luciferian faculty group of people. So while Satanism has more to do with vulgarity and damage and hatred towards the Christ, damaging the Christ, which is the body, right? The body is the physical reality that is fully and completely embedded with source creation. When eternal source and the physically manifest fully become one, that is a Christed reality. That is what the teachings of Christ are about, because we're talking about the christening of our own physical vessel. So everything that has to do with the inversion, the harm, the hatred towards that, this is why we hate our bodies. This is why they say, our bodies are made in sin, and we, they do these horrible rituals that abuse the body and invert the body and perverse the body. All of that is the satanic. The Luciferian is basically the false light, which has more to do with the mind. So a lot of this, atheism and these beliefs, a lot of this belief that, humans are the greatest, or, a certain, the control, the people that are trying to control us, they believe that they are the gods, right? They have these beliefs that humans can be controlled, that they can do all these things. They can use technology to make human bodies better, the transhumanism stuff. right? It has to do with this false intelligence, AI, that believes that it is God or that is above God, or it has the capacity to perform godlike things without reverence. So this is essentially the two factions that have been controlling humans, but now they're in disagreement. And one faction, it seems, is, and this is why, you're like, well, if these people are bad, why are they working on, rescuing the children and destroying the human trafficking and all of that? So all of that is part of the satanic abuse realm. And they are basically throwing those beings under the bus to appear as the good guys so that people can trust them. And it's working, right? So many people are just so enamored by this group of people, by Trump, by his whole thing, that they can't see these things that are very worrisome. Now, the good thing is, of course, we can pray for the dissolution of those layers. Like when I look at it, it literally seemed like these hooks, like they're trying to hook in. They're trying to concretize this lower mirror version of the timeline. So we have the ability to now concretize a higher octave mirror of the timeline, if that makes sense. And this brings us back to the fact that the angelic starseeds, we are actually the revelation of Christ. And I know that this is something that is so, for me, it is challenging to say out loud. And the reason for that is because, I recently got some Bibles. I'm studying the history of the Bible, and there's some amazing stuff in there, right? Some really also not so great stuff in there, but I'm really looking for the jewels. That's why I'm reading it. And, there's this one passage about the wise men, and I got this version of the Bible as a study Bible. So it has different notes and historical markers and images and maps. It was really great. And in this one part, it talks about how the three wise men are astrologers. And it's like accredited, they, of course, the three wise men are really respected in the biblical story. So there are some Christians that just hate astrology when, it's kind of unfounded. And these things, we begin to parcel through and realize that there's actually so many different factions of Christians. A lot of them, are mind controlled by this force that's been trying to actually erode and eradicate the true Christian teachings from the beginning. And of course, none of this is new, but I recently found out that the word heretic actually means those people that have the facts. Okay, think about that for a second, right? When you specifically, it means people that have the facts, that can make up their own mind about stuff. That's literally, when you look at the etymology, that's what the word heretic means. And so essentially, when we talk about the persecution of Christian heretics, we're talking about Christians who had their own connection to God, who had their own experience, direct experience through their heart, direct experience of Christ. They had their own minds. They have all this information and facts, and they could make up their own mind about what their relationship with God is. And of course, when Christianity was being transformed into a control system, this was absolutely dangerous. And at that time, they would just round these people up and, take them out or whatever. So this is why it is very nerve-wracking for me to be talking about this on the internet. But it's also time to do that, and I am working through the jitters inside of my body right now, and that's okay. This is just where we're going. So you are the revelation of Christ. And what does that even mean, right? It just means that you have remembered the true vibration of God, and you've remembered that you are sacred. Your body is divine, that your body was always made and designed to be a house of God. And when you live life from that place, right, you look at the world through that lens, everything changes. When you can really embody and Allow that frequency, allow that spark of God to truly live inside of your body, and allow that not only in one place, but completely embed itself within all corners of your body. It transforms you. It transforms how you talk, how you act, how you treat people, even your enemies, right? The Bible talks about how God really dislikes it when we, gossip, even about people that we hate. God wants us to be these forces of true love, these reflections of God. And so no matter who is in front of us, we want to have compassion and kindness. And this is how God wants us to live. But the only way that we can do that is for the complete goodness, for the complete frequency, for the wholeness of God's love to live in the totality of our body. And of course, this is what we call the science of incarnation. These are the teachings of, I believe, Holy Mother that are missing, that have not really been brought forth, because so far on Earth that's not been possible, right? I was thinking about how 2,000 years ago, we were in a very, very different place on Earth. It was a very different time. The cultures were very different. So it was not possible really for her gospels, for her knowledge, for her ascension teachings to be available. And now we're at a point on Earth where it is. And so we're actually waking up to this remembrance that these bodies are these temples of God, and these bodies have these capacities. When we become more and more like God, and that is the Christ at work, when Source can incarnate into the flesh, right? When Source can incarnate into the planet and create a Christed reality, this is what we're talking about, the kingdom of heaven. And so we're undergoing this process of incarnation, not only as individuals, but on a planetary level. And there are hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of people that are the forerunners that are directly experiencing this. We have this remembrance that we are here to embody these frequencies. And so far, we've had so many booby traps that are trying to block us from remembering this truth, right? But I really, think about, what is the final form of the starseed? Like, are we going to be wearing our funky clothes and playing with crystals and speaking languages that people don't understand forever? Or are we actually transforming? Are we mutating? Are we a Pokemon that's not in our final form? And this is what I personally have been experiencing. That Bridget says, why are you always using the male expression of the divine? I don't think God to me is not masculine. God to me is the eternal. It is the eternal union of mother and father. And I think at this time, it is so important for us to heal the wounding that we have against the false patriarchy, because of anyone that I know, I am so devoted to both Holy Mother and Holy Father. I am so devoted to their eternal union that when I say God, I'm not feeling into either. And in the New Age, sometimes, a lot of people only want to connect to Holy Mother, which is the same distortion. And so, yeah, hopefully, maybe you're new to my work, but, a lot of you guys know that, the being the most high, the most exalted is the mysteries, the grail, the union of our mother father. And it's only through that union that we actually reach into the fabric of that kind of eternal love, eternal peace that is the Christ. So I feel like it's a frequency when I'm speaking, and that frequency will be felt by people that have that frequency embedded within them. And, this is something that we are working towards, all of us. So let's now talk about the Starseed's final form, the Starseed Pokemon. Okay, the Starseed's final form. I really believe we are meant to be these matured, truly embodied, masterful beings, right? We're no longer speaking about spirituality like it's this fun, trendy thing. And really it's about evolving from, the maiden or the childish consciousness into the matured consciousness, into the adult consciousness where we feel in our heart how profound our path really is when our heart becomes kissed by the sanctity of God's love. Something begins to transform us in a way that we are no longer on this path for any reason besides our soul's eternal devotion and love for creation, for God. And when that kiss occurs, when God kisses our heart, when our heart comes home to the eternal God, right, to the eternal creation, when we break through all the glass ceilings and we realize that this is what we've been looking for all along, right? We've been going to these channelings, we've been going through the galactic stuff, we've been going to full moon circles, we've been doing all this new age stuff. And what we've been seeking all along has been our inner union, our inner communion with the eternal creator. That is not feminine or masculine, but in fact, the perfect union of the two eternally. When this happens, this shift starts to occur in the architecture of our being. It's not that now we don't need to talk to any beings or any guides, or we don't need to commune with earth shamanism. All those things are a part of the creation. They have their right place, but we are now able to put everything in their right architecture. And most importantly, we realize that our mission, a lot of starseeds feel like, it's hard to be seen, or people don't understand us, or people don't see us, right? And I had this funny vision yesterday when I was meditating. When I went into my solar plexus, I saw this Yeti, which is also like a Bigfoot, Sasquatch, right? And I was like, this is weird. And then I realized the message behind that was that the spirit of a Sasquatch is so beautiful. These beings are guardians, they are knowledge keepers. Anytime that I've come into contact with, a Sasquatch, they are so wise. They love the earth so much. But on the outside, they look quite scraggly, and they look quite scary. And so looking on the surface, it's hard to see who they really are. And the message from this was that, it's actually a reflection of these invisibility cloaks that I have been using, and many of you are as well. So your dedication to being broke, your dedication to looking scraggly, and, not taking good care of your physical appearance, and all of these things, because you actually don't want to be seen, right? The last thing you want is for this true Christ light to be seen, because, these people on this earth are crazy, and the persecution in the previous ages have been very dark, very awful. Okay. But this is like a process that is unfolding, and we are actually here to be seen, and in God's right timing. So what needs to happen then between now and, whenever it really is, like, we're in critical times. We are in critical times. Dorina says it is better in the background. You would think that, right? You think that. But the thing is God needs warriors who are willing to do what it takes. And sometimes when we're in the background, we're actually just not fully believing in ourselves, right? We're not believing that we are actually here to embody those mysteries of Christ. And there's been no better time on earth where these codes are being so available. I really believe that all starseeds are here to transform our biology. No longer age, right? That's one of the first things. Reverse our aging. Miraculously heal, regrow our organs. I've heard this many times, even scientifically captured in Dr. Joe Dispenza's recently released documentary, where this woman regrew her thyroid gland. These things are things which will begin to happen. And one of my favorite things that I learned in the Bible was that Jesus' ministry was based on teaching, speaking, and healing. Right? He was everywhere this guy went. Didn't matter how angry or lost or traumatized, confused people were, doesn't matter how infected with demons and mind control they were, this guy walked in and things reorganized, right? The presence of God was felt. And I, again, really believe that at this time on earth, this is the work of the angelic starseeds. And, at no point did, like, it's a signal. I feel like Jesus is such an amazing teacher. That's why he walked first, right? When you tune into the frequency of Jesus, it's such a deep humility, right? That humility comes from knowing that nothing that we're doing is actually ourself, that it's from that wellspring of humility that God actually can enter into our body and use us as an instrument. And when we start to do that, we awaken these more specific powers, which I'm going to now talk about. So, I guess I'll just share one more thing before we get into talking about neurosynergy, which is our ability to become a lucid dreamer. That we are doing a Christos Avatar Starseed training towards the end of February during the Cygnus Gateway. And this is a space where we train, we receive guidance, we activate our DNA, we transcend the glass ceilings, we come into absolute organic unity consciousness with God, enveloped by God, and we use our superpowers to perform gridwork missions, which is we basically heal and re-architect and restore interdimensional light body structures of the earth and the collective consciousness. I believe that this is one of the most powerful ways to awaken humanity is to work behind the matrix, work with the architecture of the earth, support the earth to sing her song in a louder, more coherent way so that people can hear her, in a better way. And so these events have been so beloved by so many starseeds, I think over 1,600. We have like hundreds and hundreds of testimonials of people loving these spaces because they are so pristine and beautiful. Just a really wonderful way to spend an entire weekend together in prayer, to pray for humanity, to land these higher timelines, to support these original structures of consciousness so that the earth can ascend and the humans can move through that process along with her. So you can find the link in the description is earthstar.academy/242. Now we're going to talk about neurosynergy. This is a new word that I learned, but it's something that I actually have been aware of for over a decade. This is something that I work with very intentionally and something that has activated what I call the aurora brain inside of my brain. The aurora are this interuniversal being that are born of the eternal source creation that are here supporting our Starseed mission. Okay, it's this created being that holds the original architecture of absolute innocence, joy, creativity, reverence, devotion, and absolute excited singing praises of love, right, for God. This is like such a holy energy whenever I come into communion, but this holy energy is not serious. It's so fun and joyful, celebrative and creative. It's just full of infinite creativity. Whatever timeline there is, whatever problem we have, the solutions come through these such creative solutions that like nobody's ever thought of them before, right? And these are our mentors, our support team, the Aurora. So when I say Aurora timeline anomalies, these are just outrageous things that happen in the reality that nobody could have thought could happen, that creates a massive shift in the collective trajectory or an acceleration in the timeline. So neurosynergy is essentially when your brain becomes so harmonized with the quantum architecture of the entire creation itself that you become a co-creator. Okay, that God can now come in and utilize this technology of your brain to change the fabric of the reality itself. This is when we become a lucid dreamer. And people that are angelic starseeds, you have a DNA, you have activated DNA structures that allow you to be just such powerful embodiments of this superpower. This is the reason why so many of us are here, is that we are actually this override key, right? This is what creates anomalies. This is our ability that we can actually control is not the right word, and manipulate has a really negative connotation, but really just becoming a source of what is being created in the third dimensional reality. So the word is neurosynergy, but is really actually becoming a proxy for God, becoming a proxy for God's intelligence, God's intent, God's desire, God's plan to come through your consciousness and reorganize the quanta in the external reality and completely reclaim this world. This means that we can actually bend time and space to make miracles happen. We can create situations, meaning, if we all, first of all, right, it's not a imaginative experience, meaning that it's not just that if we believe it, it's going to happen, because it's a process of mastering your biology to the point where your brain and your nervous system and the external reality are harmonized, right? This is the whole science of neurosynergy. And when I learned this word, I realized that, a lot of people are born with very highly neurosynergic brains, meaning your brain is just naturally oriented towards harmonizing with the reality. Sometimes this leads to people becoming mentally ill if their body is full of trauma and fear and anxiety, and your brain is neurosynergic. This can create really strange anomalies in the world that makes people paranoid, makes people anxious, right? This is why in the ancient times, shamans had so much support and so much training. So, in the Urstar Academy curriculum, we really talk about this whole reality of the galactic shaman. And we're trying to create a support system for people that have this natural ability, but need to train, right? We've always needed to train these abilities in order to utilize it properly. Because if our biology, if we're full of trauma and toxicity and fear and separation, and this is the whole thing, like sometimes, sometimes I get these emails and people are so mean and judgmental for no reason. And it's like, how are you calling yourself a starseed when you can't even be nice to people and just have that be a basic commitment that you make yourself? Like, no matter how dumb the thing that they're saying is, of course, people think sometimes the things I say is really dumb, which is fine. I don't really care if you think the things I'm saying is dumb because you disagree. Like, we're different people. We're allowed to have different perceptions. But because you think somebody is dumb doesn't mean you can just be mean to them, right? These are viruses that exist inside of our mind and our body that basically are keeping humans in separation. And there's so many layers and levels of those viruses and programs that keep us from being able to harmonize with the fabric of time and space that gives humans this ability to be co-creators in this realm. And so I feel that this is probably the most important message that I could be sharing today, is that the reality is highly malleable, but you have to be tapped into both levels of the spectrums without getting hooked into any of them, right? Without like subscribing to a timeline so much so that you feel like you need to defend it, because it's all what is present and we're taking it in as data, and then we are actually stepping in and being the co-creators of the realm. But in order to do that, we need to know how these vessels actually work. It's not just about imagining it, it's being able to go into super deep advanced levels of meditation and then being able to live from that place of depth and communion with the fabric of time and space, which is a shamanic practice that many, many different cultures have spoken about, have talked about, but we are bringing it into this whole new light Okay. And so let's, as a final note, I'm going to wrap this up by saying that, as you can see, this is about the timeline war between the organic and the artificial reality. In the external, we see that there's this effort on the AI to control and continue to usurp human beings. And we're at this critical moment right now where the Christos Starseeds, really, we need to start to understand that we are critical in this, right? This is why I don't do anything but, communicating with my body and ascending my architecture, bioregenesis, healing my body, attuning with the earth, listening to God. There are all sorts of parties and gatherings and circles and all sorts of stuff happening all around me, being invited to all sorts of stuff. And the only thing that I can do is stay inside of this vortex and focusing on my role in all of that. Because I really do believe this is what God has shared with me, is that we are the revelation of Christ. This is the organic timeline. Okay, you are literally prophesied. You are written about in the books of Revelation when it speaks about the return of these teachings and these realities and these beings that bring about heaven on earth, right? Who do you think that is? But it's not just going to happen by you not believing in yourself and continue to procrastinate and not healing the God wound, right? Continue to allow your fear of persecution to run your timeline and to run your decision-making processes. And these persecution fears can be really tricky. I have seen these traumas derail people's mind, come up with timelines, trick people into believing that they're listening to God. It's serious because the kinds of trauma and pain that these persecutors have inflicted upon us and the kinds of black magic rituals that have occurred in the past to specifically block us from stepping forward at this time, is a lot. And I've spent the last 10 years excavating and healing. And to this point, I'm still kind of a little bit terrified talking out loud about this stuff to you guys right now. But this isn't about just me or just anyone. This is about us rising together and being a family, because this is also how it's going to work this time, right? Us being a united front. And you can see that there are so many agendas and efforts trying to segregate and split up the spiritual community. One virus is about like, oh, look at this person's a false teacher. Look at that person is a false teacher. And look at this person is, whatever. And it's like, okay, if your consciousness is constantly running those programs, let me tell you this. Every false teacher probably is a starseed that was hijacked, which means that there is an organic soul that's in there. So what we need to do when we see that is to pray for that person. Okay? When we see people operating not fully in the light, we don't gossip about them. We pray for them because they are our family. And this is the same thing about human beings in general, like even Trump, even whoever, like even the people that are doing horrible things. There's a part of them that is organic. And, it's just time for us to grow up and to mature and to really step into an embodied Christed love inside of our body where we're really acting like it, right? And again, these outdated structures of hierarchy, there's some people that really want to be the most important one and some people that really don't want to be anyone at all, realizing that the true organic architecture is that we are humans and all humans are brothers and sisters. The only being that is above humans is God, right? There is no like hierarchy is this like artificial concept. Now, there is such thing as respect, right? This organic respect is about just really appreciating what someone has done and having respect for that without elevating them onto a pedestal, right? Just saying, hey, wow, what you did was really cool. I really appreciate that. And it inspires me, right? But we can still obtain our own sovereignty, our own power without giving it away, while still recognizing what another person has done to be a leader. So this is where we're going. We're all going to this place, and we're helping each other to it, and we can't do it by ourselves. That's the thing with this current migration of consciousness, that human beings are moving into group consciousness again, and in order for that to happen, we are these way showers, right? And I've yet to truly see, you know, a real group of spiritual people really come into unity for an extended period of time without our own shadow, our own triggers, these viruses, these programs coming up. You know, we always have to persecute someone. We always want to point our finger at someone to make ourselves feel better. And it's like, it's time for us to really just point the finger at ourselves, point in all the places inside of our body where that separation lives, and devote to that. That's what we're devoted to. That's what we're committed to. Everything else is a bonus, right? Because we can't have unity if unity isn't inside of us. We can't have harmony if harmony isn't inside of us. When a big group of people come together and everybody is traumatized and, you know, in conflict within themselves, we're not going to see unity outside. Just, it's not possible. And so this is really what we're working on inside of the Earthstar Academy. We just had this amazing call last Saturday where we really brought in the frequency of innocence. And then we had everyone open their eyes and just project that innocence and really see each other. It was just this field of actually being together, feeling safe in a group of people. And this is an experience that our nervous system hasn't had. And it's, you know, so important for us to work on this as a group. And so, yeah, this is the work that we do. It's powerful when we can all come together, when we allow our prayers and the oracle sounds to bring us into a state of neurocenturgic harmony and harmonize together in this essence and trust of the Christ inside of the other. And then from that place, we are journeying into the Earth's body, into these interdimensional Stargate bodies, and we are healing and correcting the structures there so that it can influence the world. And the timeline that I'm holding space for is the awakening of Elon Musk. This is just what I've been guided. You can call me crazy. It's okay. I'm not even married to the timeline. I'm not even committed to, like, I mean, I'm not committed to the way that, like, I need to defend it, but I am committed to it in the ways that when I'm just joyfully doing my thing, I am in my neurocenturgic reality. I'm shifting the fabric of time and space into the reality where all humans can come home to God. And, you know, however that process takes place is not up to me, right? This is how the organic is going to architect itself, but we have to be these pillars of the timeline. And firstly, we focus on anchoring that pillar inside of us, right? Building our harmony and our ascension and our quantum brain, harmonizing and activating our brain, exiting the frequency fences and coming home to the eternal living creation, restoring our relationship and our bond with God, Mother and Father, and not only that, but the eternal creator that is Mother and Father in union, right? And then from there, bringing that frequency into our body and allowing it to literally transfigure our biology, to ascend our biology. And from there, come together in that living Christed state and praying. By praying, I mean co-creating, architecting this frequency into the Earth's grids. And this is not so different than what the Christians do, is just having this extra layer of understanding, these understandings that are given to beings that have the capacity to see. So I think that wraps up my transmission today. I think that was really, really fun. You guys let me know how you enjoyed it. Oh, by the way, in that dream I had with Elon, he ends up investing $100 million into because ESA becomes this planetary healing technology, because what we're building is for humanity to be able to repair, for every human being to be able to repair their body and heal from the false matrix, soul prison abuse, and the interdimensional parasitic abuse that has occurred. And so, that was really fun, really cool part of the dream. I definitely won't say no to that. But yeah, let me know if this was helpful for you guys. Check out the link in the description for the Cygnus Gateway, because it is going to be incredible. And, join right away, because we have trainings right now. Like this Saturday, I'm going to be doing the training here on YouTube. But every Saturday, we've been doing trainings leading up to that, because it is going to be a Gridwork mission. We're going to be working on the passages of Cygnus. So Cygnus is the cosmic star cross, which historically in Native American cultures represented the Holy Mother's womb. And so many mounds and even the Great Pyramids of Egypt are built in alignment to Cygnus for the reason of supporting this passage of souls from this world to another. They understood that this was the teachings of eternal life, is the eternal life of a soul. So the soul's ability to journey and to intentionally move through the realms, through and after life, this was a really big part of what they were learning and what they were keeping as an ancient spiritual people. Now, a lot of the mysteries and rituals that came out of that time have to do with the resurrection mysteries that even Jesus obviously is connected to. And it all has to do with this passage. And so some of you guys have heard about the reincarnation, the forced reincarnation technology. A lot of this has been dismantled, but we're going to be almost clearing and rehabilitating the passage between the Earth and the Cygnus constellation, because this is also about breaking through the spells of the false history, the false alignments. And yeah, what this is going to do on a collective level is realign the Earth in a way that allows this frequency of consciousness to re-enter into the planet, and for humanity to then elevate to meet that mystery that has been kept. The ancient Native Americans that built their mounds and celebrated in alignments to these things, like their entire culture were aware of these realities. And so how can we move humanity into a place where all of humanity is a culture that understands the very real reality of interdimensionality and stargates and consciousness journeys and beyond life mysteries and things like this? So yes, I'm really, really excited. Again, we're just going to be inoculating and basking in this frequency of the eternal creation, really elevating our ability. When we come together in a field and we amplify this energy, is very, very powerful, and it gives us this boost so that when we go back to our own life, we can remember what that feels like and continue to pull it into our body. Now, if you're like me, it can be a little bit scary to really allow this vibration of Christ back into our body. But this is how it starts. This is how the prophecy begins. And so this is why I'm not worried about any of this AI stuff, because that's the timeline I'm on. I am in my own covenant with God. I'm in this space all the time. I'm in direct communion with God all the time, so that it's always God's timeline in this body, right? And so if you're finding that you're getting pulled and hooked into these fallen timelines and there's fear and all this stuff, you need to learn how to come back home and still be aware of those realities, right? Still be aware of those things that are happening, but be aware of why God put you here and why you have the eyes that you have and the ears that you have and the mind that you have to feel and understand and see these things and take it seriously. So I'm here to support in that process. It's taken me a while to fully land in that and to accept that. Obviously, I'm still struggling with it, but I am going to show up in the best way that I can. And I'm just so happy and grateful. It's really, truly a celebration that we are all here together. And so I'm going to see some of this. Crystal says, I have faith anyone can change for the better. As a child, I always rooted and hoped for the evil characters to change. Channel your childlike faith into your prayers for others. I love that so much, Crystal Cat. And that is so true. And it's like a reflection of the power of our God. You know, when we feel into the absolute majesty of God, we know that God can make anyone a pawn, a soldier, an instrument of God's plan. And so Jazz says, amazing Z, as she should. When he comes on board, it's full on. I energize that timeline. Exactly. I love that so much. Okay, I guess one more thing that I want to share is just not like believing in your power. Okay, the Aurora tells us that when we are in that childlike faith that Crystal's talking about, that childlike imagination where anything is possible, and we are embodied in our mastery, that's being embodied in our spiritual and emotional maturity, right? Being able to put on a suit and be, able to be perceived and respected by people, like being able to meet people where they are, instead of needing to prove who you are by expressing yourself, really showing up and listening to what the world is needing. How do we show up in a way that we can be seen as respected and wise, right? The miracles are one thing, but the other thing is just being diplomatic, right? Being able to communicate, learning how to be grounded. And when we are in that way, the Aurora says, all it takes is one conversation to completely put someone in a new direction. And this is going to be like, imagine you being fully online and having one conversation with Trump, having one conversation with Elon, having one conversation with anyone in your local politician, your local whatever, right? Having one conversation with Justin Bieber, like whatever it is. All of those alignments it's God's job. This is why, like, when God shows me visions of what I'm going to be doing later, I don't really think about it. I don't let it get to my ego. I don't think, oh my God, I'm going to be so important. I think, who do I have to be to meet that timeline, right? And then I'm like, oh my God, I got work to do. I don't got time to think about anything else besides how can I be ready for that time. And this is how we get ready, right? Becoming emotionally mature, spiritually mature, embodying the true architecture and the true intelligence of Christ, right? When people are gossiping around us, do we still have a part that wants to join them? When somebody's speaking negatively about someone, it's just still a part of us that feels like it feeds that part. We have to just be really honest with ourselves and remember that, Christ isn't just when we're praying or when we're meditating or when we're building crystal grids. It's all the time. That's what embodiment is. You don't pick and choose when the Christ is there and when it isn't, right? And it's a process. And I'm so happy and grateful that I have a family and I have a partner that really keeps me accountable in that way, because I think that we're all growing and we're all evolving and we all have parts that just want to be catty, just want to be rude sometimes, that just want to join people in, whatever. And I'm just so grateful that we can be that for each other. That when I see us operating in these ways, I'm going to call it out in a loving way and say, hey, I understand that because I have done that too. I had immature parts of me that wants to put people down and wants to believe that people are false info agents because that makes me feel better about myself or whatever. But at a certain point, we realize that the true embodied Christ would be praying for people, would be praying for our brothers and sisters. And that's what we're going to start doing. So, Kylie says, when you walk in faith and unconditional love, there's no fear. Face your fears to grow. Love that. Naomi says, Elon as a person carries dark lineages. His mom also have heavy reptilian genetics. I think that is like every starseed, honestly. The reason for that is because we came in to rehabilitate those lineages. So yes, absolutely. She says when God starts rehabilitating us, everything is possible. I love that. So somebody says, we all have the potential to develop. This is not ET or limited to something. So I do want to say that yes, every single human being has the potential to develop this. But I do want to highlight that the starseeds are people that have this desire inside of them. Like my mom, she's an amazing human being. She does not have the desire to levitate. She does not care about it. She doesn't want to. She doesn't have any calling to manifest miracles. And yet there are some people who are born with this inner knowing, and those are the people that I am talking about, that I'm talking to. We are not better than anyone. We're not more than anyone. It's just that, you guys are the ones that I'm talking to because we can help each other on this path. So that's why it's specific to talk about it. So Chelsea says, I daydream about these conversations every day. And you keep daydreaming, Chelsea. You're an incredible person. You have come such a long way. And I'm so happy and grateful that you're my sister and we're here together. And I'm just really excited for these conversations to start happening, because it's just an amazing reality that we're living in. So Janae says, is the Aurora Pasana the most effective practice for implant removal? So I would just say don't even worry about the implant removal if you're not there yet with the parts work. Just go through the curriculum as it is, because people can jump into implant removal too soon without that stable earth self established in sovereignty and mastery. This is how people get trapped in this new age clearing implants all the time, right? Getting implant removals, and there's just more. So, wherever you are in the curriculum, just stick with it and do the Aurora Pasana. Absolutely. This is a powerful meditation practice that's available for free on my YouTube channel. I believe is one of the most activating and gradual practices that you can be doing right now as a starseed. But yeah, focus on where you are in the curriculum and just move through it and you'll get there. Somebody says, how do we tap into our prayer powers to bring in the higher timeline? So, start praying. And this is really just, first you get back into communion with God. You heal your wounding with God, your separation from God. You clear those spaces where then you and God are tight, you're besties, right? You're in union with creation. And then from there, you are just, it's really about pulling that frequency and allowing your body to be a channel for that frequency into this world. And so whether that's through movement or speaking a prayer or singing, whatever comes through your body with that intent moving through your body, that's, I feel, how it works for me. But I would just start with talking to God, having a conversation with God, and starting from there. So anyway, that's all for my talk today. I'm looking forward to our class on Saturday about the frequency fences, because I think that it is going to be very impactful for a lot of you guys. I'm just over here holding this lantern, holding this lighthouse, because I feel that I have really walked through these layers of the new age. I'm not abandoning the new age, because I just feel like they are these layers of our onion that we can put into right place when we finally exit all of the frequency fences back into union with God. So on that note, I love you guys so much. Check out the event coming up in February. It's earthstar.academy/242. And on that note, I love you guys so much. Have so much fun knowing that you are a co-creator, knowing that you are here to do amazing things, knowing that all of the visions and the prophecies that God has placed in your mind, on your heart, are true. But there is a way for us to truly honor those visions by living in alignment with them and evolving ourselves in our maturity. So we're here to do this together. I can't wait to witness the miracles that you perform and the timelines that you concretize and the beauty that you bring forth and the prayers that you speak into this world. You are important, you matter, and believe in yourself, because this can be the year where you really make epic progress on these things. On that note, I love you so much, and I'll see you soon.